It was April 15, 1947. Jackie Robinson created a social revolution when he stepped onto the baseball diamond for the Brooklyn Dodgers. At that time, baseball was an all-white game, with African Americans designated to their own league. Robinson changed that. At 28 years of age, he was a college graduate who starred in 4 sports at UCLA, was a veteran of World War II, and had spent 2 years in the Negro Leagues. In an era when baseball was America's pastime and its passion, Robinson became the target of racial slurs throughout the league. But he survived, becoming the first black athlete in major sports. It led to the integration of the U.S. military and other professional occupations. A courageous person, Robinson thrived under the pressure in his first season, earning Rookie of the Year honors. 2 years later, in 1949, he won the batting title and was named League MVP. Jackie is now enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's an important day across Major League Baseball as we honor Jackie Robinson, an American icon. Tonight, here at Target Field and across all of Major League Baseball, every player will wear Jackie's number 42 in a show of respect for a man who changed the game forever. Weather's been spectacular at Target Field the past few days, but the results for the Twins has been something short of that. Tonight, Twins will try to break through with their first win of 2016, Game 1 of their weekend series with the Los Angeles Angels. Tommy Milone and Garrett Richards on the mound tonight. Milone hoping to snap the Twins slide to start the season. His 6-2 career against the Angels. Richards, the opening day starter for LA, has enjoyed solid success against the Twins. We welcome you to Twins baseball on Fox Sports North. It is a new day and a fresh start for the Minnesota Twins, who open this 3-game weekend series against the Angels. Let's get you set up for the weekend. Twins and Angels. The Twins' 0-9 start in 2016, the byproduct of a lack of run production. They've averaged 1.5 runs a game, by far the least in baseball. Add to that the 4th most strikeouts in the game right now. There's some serious contact issues. Despite the problems at the plate, Twins pitching has been impressive. Their ERA, second lowest in the history of the game for an 0-9 team. Twins pitchers have done their part. The fishing opener hasn't taken place yet, but tonight we'll be watching a trophy trout flourish in the land of 10,000 lakes. Mike Trout owns a .346 average with 16 RBI in 13 career games here at Target Field. Up next, Dick and Bert focus on the brightest beacon for the Twins to start the season, their starting staff, and the task that lies ahead tonight for Tommy Milone.
On Fox Sports North is presented by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. By Jeep. Visit Jeep.com to learn more. And by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine for the everyday competitor in all of us.
Yeah, for mid-April, we'll take this gorgeous weather here at Target Field, and the Twins are looking for win number 1 on the season. Tommy Milone hoping to end an early season 9-game losing streak for the Twins. The Angels got off to a slow start, but now they've won 4 straight, in part because Mike Trout might be the best player in baseball, and he's starting to swing the bat awfully well. And it is a gorgeous night here at Target Field. Glad you're with us for Twins baseball. Dick and Bert with you for the opening game of a new series, and through 9 games, no wins, but some very good starting pitching so far that the Twins hope will eventually help get the season turned around.
Yeah, there haven't been too many smiles out in that clubhouse, but pitching coach Neil Allen has to be pleased with how the starters have pitched. Yes, the Twins have lost 9 straight, but the starting staff, as a former pitcher myself and a starter, you want to keep your club in the game, and they have done that. 1 through 5, every starter has contributed in making the Twins, even though they've lost, low-scoring losses.
And Tommy Milone, because most of his career was spent in the American League West, has plenty of experience against the Angels.
Yeah, 6 wins for Milone in 8 decisions. The 6 wins, the most against any team that he has pitched against. So hopefully he'll be on tonight.
Yeah, the Angels got off to a slow start like the Twins. It's just the Twins have continued on. And today, throughout this weekend, the Twins will have to contend with maybe the best player in baseball, Mike Trout. Temperatures in the 70s. Tommy Milone leading the Twins out of the dugout. Of course, everybody wearing number 42 in honor of Jackie Robinson. And not only are all the players, uniform people wearing number 42, both teams are wearing red. So it'll be an interesting night here. Mike Scioscia, the longest tenured manager in the big leagues. And his Menards batting order for the opening game of this series. Veteran Yunel Escobar, their new third baseman. Then Craig Gentry, the left fielder. Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, C.J. Cron, Cole Calhoun, Andrelton Simmons, Carlos Perez, and Johnny Giavotella.
And it'll be Tommy Milone on the mound here tonight in his second start. He lost his first start in Kansas City last Saturday, 7-0. But he retired the first 10 batters he faced, and then Moustakas and Kane hit back-to-back home runs. He got through that inning. The next inning, a big air charge to Escobar. opened the doors and made it a 4-0 lead. But Malone, good numbers against the Angels in his career. We'll see how he fares here tonight. Changes speeds extremely well.
First pitch swung on and lifted foul out of play. In yesterday's loss, which we did not televise, the White Sox got a first inning run, and that shouldn't set the tone for a whole game, but given what the Twins have gone through, it certainly got the game off to a bad start. And so Malone's job is to do what he did in Kansas City, and that is hang some zeros up early, and who knows, maybe the Twins lineup can put a crooked number up.
Yeah, Twins lost 3-1 yesterday afternoon. Irvin Santana worked 7 innings, gave up the 3 runs, but pitched another whale of a ball game.
1-1 and a pitch up 2-1.
And Tommy will work all 4 corners of the plate. He changes speeds well. As I mentioned, he's got the fastball. He'll throw the screwball type changeup, the slider, and the slow curve.
On the ground, Escobar, nice pickup to his left, and fires high. Mauer pulls it down, 1 away. Hot ground ball to Escobar's left, but he made a good play for the first out. Oswaldo Arcia getting the start in left field. That moves Eddie Rosario to center. Miguel Sano in right. Blue Escobar Nunez starting for Brian Dozier tonight. Joe Mauer at first and Kurt Suzuki behind the plate.
Yeah, Buxton favoring that. He was hit by a pitch in yesterday's ball game, favoring that left hand, and then Brian Dozier just getting the day off.
And on the outside corner, says Alan Porter, 1 strike to Craig Gentry.
Gentry new to the Angels, when signed a minor league contract with the Angels over the winter.
Swing and a miss, 0-2.
There's that good changeup right there, like a screwball. Malone, 29 years old, in his 3rd season with the Twins. This is his 12th career start against the Angels.
We hopefully mentioned it before his last start that in 2015 he pitched a good ball game and got the Twins into the win column for the first time, and it looked like in Kansas City he was on his way to doing it again. And then the troubles in the middle innings. 2-2. But here we are. Game number 10. The Twins don't have a win yet.
Well, last Saturday, you see the pitch selections, almost 42% were fastballs, and then you see the changeup, the cutter, the curveball. So, yeah, he sets everything up with the fastball, get ahead in the count, good control of the fastball, then mix in your other pitches.
To Hopper to third. Bloof sets 2 down. And that'll bring up Mike Trout. He is remarkable. He's not yet 24 years old. And as you can see, since 2012, he's very high on a lot of lists. He's won a league MVP once. He's finished second 3 times.
Yep. He won the award in 2014. The American League Rookie of the Year in 2012. 4-time All-Star.
Was the MVP of the All-Star game here at Target Field a couple of summers ago. And Malone starts him with strike 1.
He's been the MVP the last 2 All-Star games.
Yep.
So he's got plenty of vehicles, I guess, to choose from. That's what the MVP gets.
On the ground, big hop. Escobar comes up with it, and 3 ground ball outs to the left side. A good first inning for Tommy Malone. be as upbeat, positive as he can be, given the fact that team is 0-9. Understanding, being the veteran player that he was, that you're going to have losing streaks. You sure don't want them, though, at the very beginning of the season. The Menards batting order for the Twins. Eduardo Nunez leading things off, then Joe Mauer, Miguel Sano, Trevor Plouffe, Oswaldo Arcia, Young Ho Park, Eduardo Escobar, Eddie Rosario, and Kurt Suzuki.
And they'll be facing Garrett Richards, making his 3rd start of the year, his first road start, someplace that he struggled last year on the road, but he has been tough against the Twins. This is his 4th career start, 5th game against the Twins. Got an ERA of 2.50 and a 2-1 record.
Twins will do anything to get some offense in the lineup, including putting Nunez in the lineup. He made 1 start in Kansas City, got 4 hits, reached all 5 times.
As I mentioned, we've seen Brian Dozier and Paul Molitor just giving him the night off.
There's a chopper, and that ball will trickle foul in front of and then to the side of Yunel Escobar. 4 hits in Kansas City, and then this. And as was the case with Byron Buxton yesterday, although Buxton got hit on the back of his hand, and Nunez at the time thought that he'd broken his wrist.
Yep. They said it's fine now. What the Twins will see from Richards is a lot of movement. He has a very overpowering fastball at times that has great sink on it. Also mixes in a hard slider, slow curveball, and a changeup, something he's been working on.
Yeah, he added it this year. Only throws it about 8% of the time, and a shattered bat and a roller up the middle for a base hit. On an 0-2 pitch, most of the bat ended up near the mound, and the ball barely trickled into center field.
Well, looks like a breaking ball right here. You can see the barrel of the bat almost following the ball up the middle. And Nunez picking up a hit and getting on base. So good start for the Twins.
Sometimes you'll hear slumping teams talk about what they really need is to get some broken bat hit. And here this game starts with one. We'll see if the Twins can do anything with it. Here's Mauer. Got a triple in the ball game yesterday. Squaring to bunt in the air, foul. Trying to drop one down in front of Yunel Escobar, who was pulled way over in the hole.
Joe has really started hitting this ball, I mean, this season really well. So continues to hit, and why not try to do what he did? It brings Escobar in now on in the grass, but all he had to do was lay that ball down the 3rd baseline. You got runners at 1st and 2nd.
The Angels have shifted more than any other team in baseball, and that's a philosophical departure for them. Mike Scioscia's dugout, one of the more reluctant teams to put on a shift, and already this year they've shifted far more than anybody else. So they're trying to, I don't know, get more contemporary or whatever, follow suit. And Mauer, seeing that, thought he'd drop down a bunt, and now, of course, true to form, the Angels drop out of the shift. 1-1. And taken low, 2-1. Mauer 3 for 10 against Richards. And the Twins trying to break the long losing streak and might be facing their most difficult task in terms of facing a starting pitcher here tonight in Garrett Richards.
Yeah, Richards a 15-game winner last year for the Angels.
The opening day starter for the Angels.
Yeah, for 6 straight seasons it was Jarrett Weaver who the Twins will see him tomorrow afternoon. He was the opening day starter, but Richards got that honor and ended up losing a ball game to the Chicago Cubs.
2-1 to Mauer with the speedy Nunez at first. Off the plate, 3-1. Sano on deck.
That might have been the changeup right there at 89 miles an hour. Richards in his 6th season with the Angels. First came up in 2011.
on the outside corner at 94, and it's a full count. See what the Twins do with Nunez. He runs pretty well. Mauer has become much less of a strikeout candidate so far this year. I would think in a scoreless game in the first inning.
Why not?
Pretty good bet that Nunez will take off here.
Why not? Richards is a strikeout pitcher in his career, but Joe's been swinging a hot bat.
Nunez goes, and the pitch tapped up the line, foul. 31 at bats. Just 4 strikeouts for Mauer, and by Twin standards, that's almost Joe Sewell-like. Here's the Angels defensively, brought to you by Northland Ford. Craig Gentry, Mike Trout, Cole Calhoun across the outfield. Escobar, Simmons, about as good as it gets at shortstop. Giavotella, Crone, the infielders, and Carlos Perez behind the plate. 3-2 to Mauer. Nunez goes again, and the ball lined to the left field corner. Chasing it is Gentry, and he makes the catch. Nunez has to re-tag second base, and he will get back just ahead of the throw. So Mauer driving onto the gap, and Gentry made a nice running catch.
Well, who is that? Alex Gordon out there? Yeah, Gentry, very good speed out in left field. Had to go a long way to catch this ball. He is shading Joe a little bit down that line, but making a nice running catch, and then bangs into the wall. As you see, Nunez rounding the bag, hoping that it would fall in, and then he hustles back, slides in head first, and gets back before the throw.
So 1 down. Nunez still at first, and now Miguel Sano. .28 at bats and 15 strikeouts for Sano. Breaking ball over, strike 1. Sano got off to a slow start in the minor leagues last year, and then really picked it up in May. And a look over. Brian Dozier talked about it in the pregame show. The Twins have scored once in the first inning, 1 single run. 14 runs in all over the 9 games. Line to the second baseman, and Nunez is doubled off. Safe! Oh my. I'm pretty sure they're going to look at this, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be out. 2 line drives, 4 outs.
Giavotella getting that ball, and then Nunez got his hand back on the bag.
Nunez twice has come close to being doubled off, and the Angels aren't going to challenge it. And that'll bring up Trevor Plouffe. Ordinarily, when a team is struggling like the Twins are to score runs over an extended period of time, like 9 games, you'll say, well, they're just not, you know, hitting in good luck, or there's been a lot of that. There hasn't been. There hasn't been a lot of line drive shots caught for outs. They haven't hit the ball hard enough to get many hits. So now here in the first inning, slicing liner to the corner is caught, and a line drive to Giavotella is caught.
Now Trevor has had some success against Richards. 2 hits in 7 at bats, and both of them home runs.
That might keep Nunez at first base here.
Twins have only 4 home runs on the year, and all of them have been solo home runs.
Bluff throw to first after a called strike.
Take another look at Nunez getting that right hand on the bag. Excuse me, left hand on the bag. Before Crone could get it in his glove.
One strike to Plouffe. Perez sitting up outside. And 1-1. I think I've proven over the years that from up here I make a terrible umpire. I just want everybody to know that even if I was down there, I would be a terrible umpire.
Would you be a hitter's umpire or more a pitcher's umpire?
I probably would be more of a hitter's umpire.
Would you?
Yeah. Pop foul, out of play.
You know, players do different things when they, want to try to get going a little bit. Trevor Plouffe showing more stirrups here tonight. The Sox. Alan Porter calling balls and strikes.
One and two to Plouffe. And 2-2. Angels come into this game with 4 straight wins, having won just one of their first 5. Two and two. Short lead by Nunez. I think Twins will, at least on 2-2, let this at bat right out with Plouffe hitting. And Plouffe got a piece. The bat's still alive. Both teams last year got off to slow starts, and both teams paid the price at the end. Angels won a couple more ball games by the end of the regular season than the Twins. Twins won 83, Angels won 85, and both of them were left on the doorstep of the playoffs, some would say because of the slow start. 2-2 to Trevor Plouffe. And again, he got a piece of it, a high tight fastball. Or slider, perhaps.
Yeah, good at bat so far for Trevor Plouffe, making Richards throw some extra pitches. Mentioned Richards last year really struggled on the road. In 15 road starts last year, he was 5-8 with a 4.58 ERA and won 15 ball games. So 10 of those wins coming in his home ballpark.
Another 2-2. And now 3-2 with Oswaldo Arcia on deck.
You send Nunez here?
Well, he can't possibly be doubled off, right? So yeah, I'd go.
Yeah, there are 2 outs and it's 3-2.
Yep.
We got to change some things up here too.
We've tried.
Yeah.
We have tried so hard.
You know, what was nice is when the Twins took the field, I saw a lot of fans standing up. And I think, we all go through bad parts no matter what you do in your life, and you need support. And nice to see a nice crowd here tonight supporting the Twins. Hopefully get in the win column.
Three and 2 to Plouffe. Cron backing up behind Nunez. And now Nunez goes, and the pitch wrapped to third. High hop for Escobar, but he stays with it and throws him out. A couple of well hit balls in the inning. A leadoff single left on base. No score after 1. Sports North is presented by CenturyLink. Switch to CenturyLink Prism TV for an advanced TV experience. Learn more at cprismtv.com.
It has been a dreadful start for the Twins with 3 series played, 3 series losses, 3 three-game series sweeps. In all of 2015, the Twins were swept in a 3-game series only 4 times. There's a high fly to center off the bat of Pujols, and drifting back is Rosario, and making a catch, reaching out onto the warning track for the first out. Well, Rosario not used to playing center field. He has played out there quite a bit, but he has been primarily a left fielder, and when not in left, he's been in right up here.
Yeah, that warning track about 400 feet away, and Rosario kind of glided behind, kept watching that ball just keep going, and made the catch. So Pujols, 1 pitch, first out.
I've been watching batting practice here for years, and I still can't figure this ballpark out with the wind blowing in from right field. And during batting practice, the wind was, there's a ball popped down the right field line, chased by Mauer, and on a warning track, 0-2. To watch the ball leave the bat during batting practice and feel the gusts of wind in your face, and it's hard to predict based on the wind coming in from right field how the ball's going to track on the wind.
Yeah, sometimes it hits the stands, you know, over here by us, over the third base dugout area, and then it kind of swirls around.
Lifted to right, and Sano toward the gap makes the catch. 2 down. Well, Tommy Milone got 3 ground ball outs in the first inning. Now a couple of quick fly ball outs. We'll bring up Cole Calhoun. Tomorrow the Wild will host a viewing party at XL Energy Center for Game 2 of their playoff series versus the Dallas Stars. The first 500 fans receive an official playoff rally towel. Admissions free. Fans are encouraged to make a donation to benefit the Minnesota Wild Foundation. For more information, visit foxsportsnorth.com. Click on upcoming events. 2 down, and here's Cole Calhoun. C.J. Cron really struggling offensively for the Angels. Calhoun is not. And a shot, diving stop to his left. Escobar has it. Got him. A good play by the Twins shortstop. And another quick inning for Tommy Milone. You did that a lot when you hit. You put a lot of pine tar up there and the rosin and all of that, and that helped you how?
You saw my batting average. It did not help me at all, but my bat looked good.
You hit 130 something?
131, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the Twins as a team are hitting 201.
Please don't compare them to me.
Here's Arcia, Park, and Escobar. Arcia takes a strike over the inside corner. 0 for 4 with a walk. Couple of strikeouts for Arcia. Getting a chance to start at least today with Danny Santana on the disabled list. Byron Buxton with a bruised hand. This one hit to center. And Trout scampers over. Easy play for him. One down. Before Byung-Ho Park's at bat, let's check in with Marty Gelder.
Dick, you just mentioned Buxton with that bruised hand. He left the game yesterday after being hit by a pitch. X-rays were negative, though. It is just a bruise and sore hand in our Sanford Health injury report. Buxton told me today he hit off the tee. He did some soft toss work, and it didn't bother him much, but he took early BP, and it stung a little bit doing that. Paul Molitor said it's unlikely Buxton will get an at-bat, but he potentially could play in the field or pinch run. And guys, Buxton said he was very relieved that it is only a bruise, because at first he thought it was much worse, and of course he's had some troubles with that left hand, so we're happy to report it's only a bruise.
Yeah, very good news. Thank you, Marty.
One strike to Byung-Ho Park, and a check swing. No, 1-1. Looking at the replay, and I've seen it about 8 or 10 times, I was as frightened about the carom off the hand, because the ball then bounced up and hit him around the eye area and knocked his helmet off. Swing and a miss. And a lot of breaking balls from Richards, getting ahead of Park.
Well, scouting reports get out there quickly. How do you pitch to Park coming over from Korea? And he's had a tough time.
On the outside
There's
corner,
strike 3.
94-mile-per-hour fastball, 2 down. Time now for tonight's Toyota Key Stat. You heard Richards, a couple of decisions and a loss, a real good ERA against the Twins.
Yeah, this guy might be the ace of their staff. Jarrett Weaver was, but Weaver not the same pitcher he once was, so they're relying on Richards, who has put together 2 very, very solid seasons.
Eduardo Escobar will bat. Popped up, foul and out of play. 3 for 6 as a right-handed batter. 8 for 28 as a lefty. Bauer and Escobar are the only 2 Twins regular players who are hitting over 200, and in each case they're hitting over 300.
Escobar as a left-handed hitter, hitting 286, 500 as a right-handed hitter.
Swing and a miss, 1-2. Swing and a miss on a breaking ball. Back-to-back strikeouts and a 1-2-3 second for Garrett Richards.
Sports North is presented by Northland Ford. Visit northlandford.com and your local Northland Ford dealer today. And by Grand Casino. The best stories start here.
No score heading to the third. Tommy Milone threw just 5 pitches in the second inning. And now he'll face the bottom third of the Angel lineup, starting with Andrelton Simmons.
Yeah, for Milone, he's now 7 for 7 first pitch strikes. So both starters, Richards also 7 for 7 in first pitch strikes. Both pitchers throwing that first ball over the plate.
And now 1-1. You got to know Simmons a little bit through the WBC a couple of years ago.
Oh, he can pick it at short, I'll tell you that. First season with the Angels, born in Curacao. 4 seasons with the Braves. Won 2 gold gloves as a shortstop with the Atlanta Braves.
The Angels gave up a couple of good prospects to get Simmons, especially notable because the Angel farm system is not considered to be very highly regarded at all. In fact, Baseball America coming into this year ranked it as the worst farm system in the major leagues, and so the price that the Angels paid to get this guy significant to begin with, and especially so given the fact that their farm system is comparatively barren of prospects.
Yeah, Eric Ibar was also involved in that.
Chopper to third and a foul ball. The Twins flex plan gives you the flexibility to choose your games and your number of seats. You can choose in advance or even the day of the game. Don't plan, flex plan. Go to twinsbaseball.com/flex or call 800-33-TWINS to learn more.
Yeah, Simmons 4 seasons with the Braves, a .256 hitter, 31 home runs in the 4 seasons. Angels are very, very happy at the way he has played short.
And Milone tried to clip the inside corner but missed. It's a full count.
Not by much. Carlos Perez on deck.
And nice play by Tommy Milone. Coming off the mound and fielding the ball between the mound and third base and making a strong, accurate throw.
Yeah, Trevor Plouffe probably did not have a chance to get Simmons at first base, so Tommy Milone, his momentum does carry him toward that third baseline. Reacts quickly, spins, and makes a good throw to Joe Mauer for the first out. So a nice defensive play by the pitcher, Milone.
It's nice to see that athleticism, isn't it?
Well, they are the best athlete on the field.
There you
Come
go.
on. Don't leave me open like that.
One down, and now the Angel catcher Carlos Perez. Perez being backed up by Giovanni Soto. 1-0. And now 1-1.
Good change up there. Perez last year started in AAA, got called up on May 4th by the Angels. Played in 86 ball games, hit .250.
Lifted foul into the seats.
Perez, 25 years old, from Venezuela, originally signed by the Toronto Blue Jays back in 2008. He came over actually from the Houston Astros organization for Hank Conger.
Toward the hole, and that'll roll through for a 1-out single. So Perez aboard with a 1-out single.
Yeah, first hit of the ball game for the Angels. Kind of a seeing eye base hit, a breaking ball that Perez beats into the ground, but just to the left of Plouffe and to the right of Escobar in the left field.
Here's Johnny Giavotella. And a strike at the knees. You know, for a long time, these two teams were perennial playoff
entrance in the American League. Twins with 6 division titles in 9 years under Ron Gardenhire. The Angels were there more often than not during that same period of time. The Twins haven't been in the playoffs now for 5 years. The Angels have been to the playoffs only once in the last 6 years.
A couple of years ago.
And they just missed, as we said, last year. And their drop off hasn't been as dramatic as the Twins in terms of a 1-loss record, but ultimately the goal is to get back to the postseason, and the Angels have been on the outside looking in almost as much as the Twins have. 1-1 to Giavotella. One hopper to Plouffe. Over to Nunez. Round the horn they go. Tommy Milone gives up a seeing eye base hit, but he still has faced just 9 men through 3 innings. Wearing the number 42 to honor Jackie Robinson today. When baseball first started honoring Mr. Robinson, we're at the Metrodome, and Rachel Robinson came and was part of a very special ceremony at the Metrodome, and it was my great pleasure to meet her. And the number 42, of course, retired. I believe Mariano Rivera was the last active player. He'd been around so long, he'd taken number 42 before the Major League Baseball put an embargo on that number. 1-1 to Eddie Rosario.
Yeah, if you have not seen out there the movie 42, you have to watch it. It is outstanding.
2-hopper smothered at first by Cron, and he goes to the bag. 1 down, and that'll bring up Kurt Suzuki. Suzuki struggling. He's driven in a couple of runs, but the batting average just a few ticks over 100. Richards gave up a base hit, then a couple of well hit balls in the first inning, but now seems to be in control of things. Up and in to Suzuki, ball 1. Angels a few percentage points ahead of the Rangers in the American League West. 2-0.
Yeah, they had the off day yesterday. Prior to that, they swept the Oakland A's in Oakland.
Spent the off day here in Minnesota, and I'm sure, you know, when they got the schedule and you look at, okay, an off day in Minnesota on April 14th, I'm going to be stuck in my hotel room.
Bring a heavy jacket.
That is foul, wide of third. And Mike Scioscia was telling me before the game today they remember making an April trip here a couple years ago, and there was a game that was snowed out. So they were more than happy to take the 80 degrees or whatever it was yesterday. Another balmy day today. 2-1 to Kurt Suzuki. Supposed to be nice throughout the weekend. Swing and a miss. And we've seen Richards a number of times hit 94 on the gun.
Well, changing speeds. Well, he is mixing in that changeup. Second pitch he threw to Rosario was a good changeup right there. It just rears back and challenges Suzuki. Now Perez looked like a fastball away. Yeah, a little cutter like.
Another strikeout. Third strikeout for Richards, and let's find Marty Gellman.
Eduardo Nunez is coming to the plate now, guys. He's playing second base in place of the regular second baseman Brian Dozier. Paul Molitor said it's just a day off. Everybody's had one this season except for Dozier. It's nothing more than that. And I talked to Brian about it today, and he said, I hate it not playing, but if I have to be on the bench, I'm going to be up at the rail. I'm going to be on the top step cheering this team on every inning. You know, he doesn't like to be the guy sitting out, but once in a while, you got to take a break. And that's what Dozier's doing today, guys.
Came out for some early hitting. Thank you, Marty. And was working on hitting the ball to right field. And just because you're not in the lineup doesn't mean it's really an off day. Sometimes you end up working harder on your off days than you do when you're playing. One strike. And Nunez takes a ball.
And sometimes it's not the physical part because, like you said, he was out there early. It's more the mental part. Just sit back and watch the game. And if you're needed later on, yes, be ready.
Rifle to center, and Nunez just keeps getting hits. Already 6 hits on the season for Eduardo Nunez. They've all been singles. The first one wasn't hit particularly well, but this was a rocket.
Boy, he's not going to hit a lot of home runs. Look at this. That kind of hung right inside. Perez wanted it away, left out over the plate, and Nunez squares it up. Something that we haven't seen a lot of the Twins hitters do is hit that mistake pitch the way that Nunez did right there.
Bauer hit a slicing line drive to the left field corner with Nunez aboard. And Craig Gentry made a good running catch near the warning track. Cutter down and in, ball one. You're right, it's 94 miles per hour, but it does seem to have some movement tailing in on a left-handed batter.
He throws a little across his body too, so he kind of gives you a different little angle. We'll see Jarrett Weaver tomorrow that really throws across his body.
Can always tell by the imprint on the mound. Richards works from the first base side of the rubber, but his stance or his stride takes him
almost this type of angle,
almost toward Mike Scioscia.
Right.
2-0 to Mauer. And a strike on the outside corner. Obviously, with the Twins scuffling to score runs, 2-out hitting has been non-existent. There's what we're talking about right there. Two and one to Mauer. Twins scored 2 runs in the White Sox series, both of them scoring on outs. So there hasn't been a run producing hit for the Twins in a long while. And Nunez jammed his hand going back into the bag, it looked like.
Kind of flexing that right hand.
He's 6 for 8. And now he's got to worry about his hands. Or at least one of them. 2-1. Fly this one to the left field corner, and Gentry makes a catch about the same spot he caught the line drive in the first inning. On to the fourth, no score.
Tommy Tickets, that's what I call him.
Really quiet. Doesn't say a whole lot.
Sometimes you don't even know he's there.
He will throw in a one-liner every once in a while that'll have you cracking up pretty good.
Nothing ever phases this guy.
Kind of reminds me of an old Tom Glavine. Can hit a fly on a catcher's mitt. He can pinpoint any pitch, all 5 of his pitches.
Tommy's just that guy that he's just consistent out there.
And Tommy Milone, who had a perfect first trip through the batting order in Kansas City, had a nearly perfect first trip through the batting order here tonight against the Angels.
Well, his job is to get ahead in the count, and he's done a great job of that. 9 of 10 hitters now faced strike 1. And he's not a guy that's going to blow anybody away with a fastball. He's got to hit his spots. Great pitch right there. That little turnover changeup like a screwball.
2 strikes to Escobar. Hit a bouncer to short his first time.
It's fun to watch pitch because he's a pitcher. He changes speeds well.
We said in Kansas City, he's always struck me, even when he was still pitching for Oakland, as somebody who knew what he wanted to do out there. He had a plan. And then, of course, guys like him, Burley types, Jamie Moyer types, they are finesse pitchers. They need to hit their spots. Pop up short right field. And a collision in right between Sano and Nunez. And rounding second, going to third is Escobar, and the throw is in time to get him.
Wow, what a great throw by Joe Mauer. Hopefully everybody's okay.
Watching 3 things at once. Sano, Nunez, Mauer, the runner, and all of that happening in a frightening collision in right field.
Well, Sano coming in. You can see him yelling, but then it's Nunez that cuts Sano off. And Sano takes a big tumble. Nunez, you see where he made contact with Sano's like running into a wall.
Some idea of the impact by looking at the turf underneath, how much of it. And Sano's right leg thankfully appears to be okay. Nunez we're still worried about. He's had a bad 5 minutes, going in head first to the bag at first on a pickoff throw where he appeared to twist his wrist or jam a finger. And moments before this happened, Kevin Kiermaier, the Rays, was involved in this very similar play, and Kiermaier had to leave the ball game. And so we've had a couple of infield outfield collisions here already tonight. And Nunez trying to stretch out that right leg.
Right.
There's no bigger right fielder in the game, and you can see, or you could on replay.
Nunez saying I ran into a wall.
I'm lucky to be alive. Yeah. I think he might be saying, and Escobar jabbering with him a little bit. He's okay, and he's going to stay in.
All said and done, watch Joe Mauer right here. Now he's watching the play, and then the ball gets away. So Joe hustling down that line, picks it up, and airmails it all the way to third and makes a great throw to Trevor Plouffe. And Escobar trying to make a triple, but instead it's a double and a 3-5 throw out.
The arm that won Gold Gloves behind the plate came in handy there, didn't
sure
it?
Did.
My goodness, what a play by Mauer. All hands on deck, everybody back where they should be. One down in the fourth. Here's Craig Gentry. Should be a routine play. A roller to Escobar, 2 down.
You know, of all the plays in baseball, that probably scares me the most, where an infielder has to go out with the outfielder coming in and the noise of the crowd trying to get the attention of that infielder going back. Boy, luckily both of them are okay, it looks like.
Carsoup.com trivia question. Since July of 2011, Mike Trout's debut, how many players have a higher slugging percentage than Trout? We're just looking for a number. We don't need the names. There is ball one. Well, Twins fans or Twins baseball people and the good friends of Jason Kubel will still tell you about his collision, very similar to one we just saw. Ryan Rayburn ripping up Jason Kubel's knee. And there are some in the organization who thought Kubel, as good as he was never the same. He was one of the hot hitting prospects in all of baseball. 2-0 to Trout, and now a strike 2-1.
I know my old roomie Danny Thompson had a collision in the minor leagues with Herman Hill, the outfielder. Danny was a shortstop, Herman Hill was the outfielder, and it did not turn out good for either of them.
Now a Tapper foul. And again, I don't know that you can necessarily write that off as Sano's inexperience in right field. It happens all the time. Right. Way too often, in fact. That was a tweener, and two players hustling after the ball, thankfully, are both okay. Swing and a miss. And Tommy Milone faces just 3 men again in the fourth. And more importantly, the same 9 men who walked out onto the field are walking off the field. things off than Trevor Plouffe and Oswaldo Arcia. Sano, Plouffe, Arcia, and then the Twins hope to put together an inning.
Well, let's bat around. Put a crooked number on the board.
Sano with a end of the bat two-hopper to second. Giavotella throws him out, one away. Bring up Plouffe. Twins baseball on Fox Sports North is presented by T-Mobile. Get Major League coverage. T-Mobile has doubled its 4G LTE in the last year. One quick out in the fourth, and now Trevor Plouffe.
Trevor had a good at-bat in his first at-bat to end the first inning. Ended up grounding out to Escobar at third. With some good swings against Richards.
And a strike. Twins with just 14 runs scored. The next lowest in baseball, the New York Mets, who are hitting 194 as a team, and in 8 games they've scored 20 runs. Tap foul, 0-2. In the American League, the next lowest run total, Tampa Bay, they've scored 24 in 9 games. The Angels with 26. Two strikes to Plouffe with one gone in the Twins' fourth. High hopper over the mound. Giavotella gloves and fires 2 down. Good play.
Yeah, nice play by the second baseman.
The Budweiser Roof Deck is the ultimate Minnesota Twins outdoor experience. The roof deck is available for your group of 250 guests on both Independence and Labor Day weekends. Your clients and staff will love the views, the amenities, large fire, everything you need for mixing game time with social time. Go to twinsbaseball.com/groups. Learn more about how your group can experience the Budweiser Roof Deck. Arcia with an outfield fly his first time up, and he takes a strike at the knee. Landed 4 feet in front of the left-handed batter's box. 1-1. It has to be tough for Arcia, who would probably tell you himself that his swing is a rather high maintenance swing and he needs to play to be productive. But he's on the other side of it right now, where until he's productive, he's not going to get much playing time. Swing and a miss, 1-2.
I remember last year he broke with the Twins and hit the ball very well. First 20 ball games. Then he had the injury with the hip, and that sent him back to the minor leagues eventually, where he really struggled.
On the outside corner, called third strike.
Strikeout number 4.
And on to the 5th, no score. Albert Pujols will lead off the 5th inning. Tommy Milone has faced the minimum through 4. Tonight's Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light. Active batting average leaders: Miguel Cabrera, Ichiro Suzuki, Bauer, Pujols, Buster Posey. And an off-speed pitch over strike 1. Pujols lifted a fly to Rosario in center his first time up.
Yeah, he jumped on the first pitch. That one, he takes that breaking ball. So Milone again working out front.
1-1. Well, Milone has done his part so far, which is to put a bunch of zeros up early, hoping that eventually this Twins lineup will get productive. Tapped foul.
Pujols had an off year last year. He hit only .244, but he also hit 40 home runs and drove in 95 runs. Off year as far as average, but again the power. 560 home runs he's hit.
Driven to the gap in left center field, and Pujols will get a single to lead off the 5th. Somewhere here on a beautiful night at Target Field stands Marty Gilman.
What a beautiful night, and how about a nice night to win $100 worth of scratch-off tickets as well.
Yes.
In the Minnesota Lottery Winners Circle with Nick and Carlene from Inver Grove Heights celebrating their 50th anniversary tonight. Nick, you have a little trivia for us you looked up. What is that?
Yes, I do. 50 years ago today, the Twins played the Los Angeles Angels, and they lost 9-4.
How ironic.
That's not a bad omen.
You were not at that game, correct?
No, I wasn't.
You were busy getting married.
I was busy getting married that day. Yeah.
Well, how about $100 worth of scratch-off tickets as an anniversary gift?
Well, that'd be great.
You'll share your winnings with Dick and Bert, of course.
Of course. When Dick was gracious enough to sign our poster.
Well, that's got some value then.
That's right.
Bert will circle us, and that'll be great.
Yeah, you are here by circle.
You got it all tonight. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Swing and a miss. 0-2 to C.J. Cron. Met those folks as I was touring Target Field here tonight. I like to walk around the concourse area and just kind of get a feel for the fans as they come in. 2 strikes to Cron with the heavy-legged Pujols at first, and Cron really struggling. He's now got 3 hits in 31 at bats. That, however, just his 6th strikeout.
And Tommy Milone picking up his 2nd strikeout.
Cole Calhoun will bat. Calhoun hit at or near the top of the batting order in recent years with the Angels, but now they've moved him down to the middle of the lineup, thinking he can be a run producer there with Pujols, who in his career has been a great on-base guy. And over strike 1, and of course Mike Trout hitting right in front of Pujols.
I was going to say you have Trout and Pujols, and Calhoun last year 26 home runs, drove in 83 runs.
One strike to Calhoun. Just missing 1-1. On the ground through the hole to left. Pujols to second. That'll be as far as he gets. So a pair of singles here in the 5th inning.
Well, a guy like Calhoun, of course, you sign with the Angels, you come up through their system. It takes a while sometimes to get going, but he's one of these guys that's just getting better and better now at 28 years old in his 5th season with the Angels.
You can see the numbers pretty modest in 2012 and 13. And within that, of course, is a lesson in temperance for the likes of Buxton and Rosario and Sano, Arcia. Here is Simmons. Hit a number between the mound and third base, and Milone made a nice play to throw him out.
Right, needs a ground ball right here at one of his defenders.
Strike of the knees. Angels have won 7 of the last 8 games played here at Target Field between these two teams.
Yeah, last couple seasons the Angels have had the Twins numbers, winning 12 of the 14 games.
1-1. Each team with 9 games played coming into play tonight. And in those 9 games, Twins batters have struck out 94 times. The Angels 48 times. So the Angels have struck out about half the time that the Twins have. Angels with 4 hits. Twins with a couple of hits, both by Eduardo Nunez here tonight.
Well, Simmons, a guy that has struck out only 1 time in 34 at-bats.
High chopper over the mound. Escobar to the bag. Fires. Double play.
Good call.
Escobar's having a fine night in the field as he makes a nice fielding play going to his left. Little footwork adjustment, and the inning is over. With 2 hits, both by Eduardo Nunez. Byung-Ho Park takes one up and in. Ball 1. It'll be Park, Escobar, and Rosario in the Twins' 5th, facing Garrett Richards. Park called out on strikes his first time up. Saw a lot of sliders and ended up striking out on a fastball.
Yeah, fastball like a cutter worked the outer half of the plate. Richards with 4 strikeouts, Park being his first in the 2nd inning.
1-1 to Park. Talked with Tom Bernansky the other day about Park, and he said that he is being caught being in between as he tries to adjust to more velocity up here. He hasn't done that yet, and his trying to adapt to the increased velocity has left him out ahead of off-speed pitches, basically saying he's in no man's land. Fouled away down the right field line. April 18th is Byung-Ho's balcony. You can make your way here to Target Field and show your support for the new Twins player, Byung-Ho Park. Fans purchasing the special Byung-Ho's balcony theme night package will receive the deck game ticket plus a limited edition Byung-Ho Park cap. Go to twinsbaseball.com/park to learn more about Byung-Ho's balcony theme night offer.
That's kind of the pitch you were talking about with Tom Bernansky right there. The breaking ball looked like he was way out front. Just got a piece of it to stay alive.
One and two to the leadoff man of the Twins fifth.
Perez sitting away.
2-2.
He laid off that nasty slider.
Now 3-2. Park with all the strikeouts. He's put the ball in play 12 times and has 4 hits. So there's that. His BABIP is pretty good. Full count to the leadoff man here in the fifth.
Going with the slider on 3-2.
Took it for ball 4.
Good take. First walk for either pitcher.
Only in Minnesota can you enjoy one of the most vibrant art scenes in the country, featuring renowned theater, music, and visual arts centers. Minnesota's home to the Guthrie Theater, Walker Art Center, Minnesota Orchestra, St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, the Ordway, and many other interesting and growing smaller areas of interest. Find endless ideas for the perfect getaway at exploreminnesota.com and share your favorites with #OnlyInMN. Now Escobar. A look over. Escobar struck out swinging his first time up.
He swung at 2 balls down in the dirt. Need one of Escobar's patented doubles right here.
In the dirt, and Perez couldn't find the baseball, and for that matter neither could the runner Park. Looking through a lot of legs, the hitter, the catcher, and the umpire, the ball just rolled almost onto the grass. Ball 1. Second time the Twins have had the leadoff man on against Richards. They got a leadoff single in the first. They've yet to get a runner to second base. For a strike.
Yeah, a little change up right there.
Did you fiddle around with a changeup much?
I did throughout my career. Yeah, I never got the Frank Viola or Brad Radke or Santana circle changeup. I just added a finger. That's about all. To my 2-seam fastball became a 3-team fastball.
Tap foul.
Yeah, the 2 years that I gave up a total of 96 home runs, I called that changeup my lone pitch. I just loaned it out to the hitter. I didn't realize they'd hit it that far.
Let's think of all the fans you made happy, though. All those sitting out in the outfield seats.
My family was out there.
You couldn't get them better seats than that?
That's where they wanted to sit when I pitched. They brought their gloves.
1-2 to Eduardo Escobar. He's had a good night in the field, trying to get a big hit here for the Twins. Inside, 2-2.
Richards tonight making his 90th major league start, his 145th appearance. 39 wins, 31 losses, an ERA at 3.6. He has 3 complete games in his career, a couple shutouts.
That's strike 3. Escobar's out because there was a man at first, but Park will go to second base. So a pitch in the dirt, the very pitch that Escobar struck out on in the second inning, but this time Perez couldn't corral it, and Park advances to second on a wild pitch.
Yeah, it'll be a wild pitch and a strikeout for Richards, his 5th of the ball game, but it does allow Park to get to second. So second straight at bat that Escobar swung at a pitch that quite didn't get the home plate.
Fox Tracks presented by Jeep. I guess not a bad idea if you're the batter. You should know that you're out. But if in running to first somehow you can draw a throw from the catcher who might, although he knows the rules, get a little flustered, maybe make a throw. You never know what might happen.
Throw it down the right field line.
Hit to the outfield might put the Twins on the board. It is Rosario trying to get that hit. Another one down and in, and Perez scrambles to control that one.
Yeah, Richards' control a little off this inning. You see the breaking ball, Perez knocking it down, keeping Park at second base. Good job turning himself in front of that baseball and keeping it in front of him.
1-0 to Rosario. Twins' last run producing hit came in the 7th inning Sunday in Kansas City. Home run by Dozier. Swing and a miss, 1-1. Five hits, including a couple of doubles for Rosario. And strikeouts, 31 at bats. Twins entering play today had 5 players in double digits in strikeouts. The Angels have just 1. One and two. This is where the Twins would really like Rosario to tighten up his game. With 2 strikes, he really tends to expand the strike zone. Free swinger to begin with, regardless of the count.
Maybe sometimes just trying to do a little bit too much.
And he strikes out for out number 2.
95-mile-an-hour fastball down, and Richards picks up his 6th strikeout.
Pepsi fans of the game waiting for the Twins lineup to start producing runs like it was expected to coming out of spring training. We'll see if Suzuki can get them started here tonight. Went down swinging his first time up. Suzuki, of course, one of the toughest guys to strike out on the team, and he struck out 4 times in 20 at bats. I mentioned on Twitter the other day an idea that just came to me, and I don't know whether you like it. You know, we have walk-up music for hitters. They pick a song, their favorite song. They come up to home plate. How about if we found out what their least favorite song was and play it after they trudge back to the dugout? Maybe that would help discourage the strikeouts in baseball.
You're right. I don't like it. There we go. Get through.
One hopper to short. Easy play for Simmons, and the Twins get a leadoff walk, leave Park at second base, and we are scoreless going to the 6th. Sixth inning, Fox Sports Supports is proud to team up with Surfrider Foundation in celebration of this month's Every Day is Earth Day initiative. By making simple changes in our daily lives, we can make a big impact on our environment. Go to foxsportsupports.com, learn more about what you can do to be a part of the solution. Recycling is pretty much universal now, and boy, it really, you think about how long it took us to get to the point where we would be recycling glass and aluminum and newsprint and all that. And now I think they're virtually, here's a line drive to center field and a leadoff hit for Carlos Perez. He has 2 of the hits. And now he's going to second base, and he is safe. Rosario maybe a little slow in getting to that ball, and Perez alertly scampering from first to second.
Credit Perez. He jumps on that first pitch. He hits it into right center. Take a look at the pitch. Hustling out of the box. See Rosario kind of nonchalantly.
Oh, he juggled it out there. Yeah.
Yep. And credit Perez right here, hustling out of the box, and then right there seeing it, and he kept going. So it's a base hit for Perez, and an error will be charged to Rosario.
Now the number 9 batter, Giavotella, likely asked to bunt here. Corner infielders up, so the Twins make a mistake in the 6th, and the Angels have their first really good scoring opportunity. Squaring and a bunt, and Suzuki will make the play, and on the play Perez goes to third, 1 away. Let's check in with Marty Gellner for news around baseball.
Yesterday, Washington's Bryce Harper hit his 100th career home run, and it was grand. His first career grand slam. Harper is the 8th youngest player in Major League history now with 100 homers. The Chicago Cubs have busted out of the gate. They're the first team to 8 wins in the majors. Today, the Cubs lost to the Rockies, but still are 8-2. And the World Baseball Classic is getting a classic. Former Detroit Tigers manager Jim Leyland will manage Team USA in the tournament. It starts in March, and it will be Leyland's international coaching debut. Dick and Bert.
Thank you, Marty. Infield in here, and the ball lined into right center field, a base hit, and the Angels will get the first run. Escobar rounds first. He's going to dig for second, and he will reach. And the Angels playing some small ball here, taking advantage of a Twins error in the outfield, take a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, with the infield in, Escobar jumping on that first pitch and picking up his second double of the ball game and driving in his third run. So Tommy leaving a couple pitches up while thigh high Escobar hitting it sharply. Perez scores the first run of the ball game.
Malone had a couple of errors behind him in Kansas City in the middle innings, and now a costly one here. Gentry will bat, a couple of ground balls to the left side. Strike on the outside corner. Marty was talking about the Cubs 8-2. The White Sox are 8-2. Chris Sale with a 1-0 shutout tonight. And given the complexion of the sports community in Chicago, I can't imagine a worse feeling for the White Sox than to have one of their better years when the Cubs are the talk of baseball. Escobar at second after his RBI double. You know, you look at the teams that are off and running with really good records in the American League, and all 3 of them have profited at on the Twins 9-game losing streak. Baltimore coming into play 7-2. Well, they won the first 3 games. Chicago and Kansas City were 7-2 coming into this weekend's play, and they each swept the Twins. Everybody else except the Twins are within a game or 2. I guess the Astros are 3-7. Seattle's 3-6.
Everybody else is within a game or two of the 500 mark.
Yeah, coming into the play, the Twins are 7 games behind the White Sox and the Royals.
1-2 to Gentry. Two and two, and now Malone hoping that things don't mushroom on him here in the 6th inning. As we get closer to the part of the game, now Malone has just 62 pitches. But as we move into the later innings, the Twins are without reliever Fernando Abad tonight. He got word today that his grandmother passed away in the Dominican Republic, so he has left the club for the weekend.
The Twins will put him on the bereavement list, and they'll be making a roster addition after the ball game,
which puts the spotlight squarely on Taylor Rogers, at least for tonight, until somebody else shows up. Twins, you might want to speculate. Ryan O'Rourke, another lefty who had a really good spring training. He might be on his way here eventually. Quick trip to the mound with Kurt Suzuki talking to Tommy Malone. But the Twins are a man short out of the bullpen tonight. Beyond the 9-game losing streak, it's just been kind of a chaotic first week and a half for Paul Molitor. Glenn Perkins going down a couple days ago. Just off the outside corner, he just missed, striking out. Gentry looking, and he could use a strikeout in this situation.
Yeah, good pitch right here. You see Suzuki sitting away.
Yep.
Not by much.
So now he has to pitch to Gentry with Trout in the on-deck circle. And chipped foul over the Twins dugout.
Now Gentry getting some playing time in his first season with the Angels. 5 seasons he wore a Texas Ranger uniform. Last couple of years with the Oakland A's. Spent most of the season in AAA last year for the A's.
Another 3-2 from Malone to Gentry. Popped up short center. Nunez backpedaling, looking over his left shoulder to see where Sano is, and he makes the catch.
Good change up right there. Had Gentry way out front.
That's what I meant too about Malone and his mental process out there. He's been in situations like this, and he's as aware as anybody is that, you know, the lineup isn't scoring a lot of runs, and 1 run seems like 2 runs would seem like 4, and so he's doing what he can here to get out of the jam.
He's got to pitch very careful right here to Mike Trout.
Down and in, ball 1. He has a base open, but Pujols on deck.
Got to have Mike Trout chase something.
Dug out again nicely by Suzuki.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go ahead and put him on.
Since July 8, 2011, how many players have a higher slugging percentage than Mike Trout? I'll go 2.
I'll go 1.
Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah.
So we nailed it.
Ding, 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 ding.
2-0 to Trout. On the ground to Escobar. And all things said, not a bad job by Tommy Malone. An error in the middle of a couple of hits, and the Angels get on the board.
A couple of hits. He's had an interesting night.
Dove into the bag a little bit. Almost landed on his chest, and then he runs into a wall out in right field, and Miguel Sano says, hey, I'm bad. My bad. I'm sorry. He said, you're too big to run into. And then he has to explain to everybody how he did it, and Albert Pujols said, hey, let's go. Wake up. You're okay.
And it's Nunez who has both Twins hits here against Garrett Richards, leading off the 6th. He has made 2 starts for the Twins this year. He is 6 for 6, and he got hit on the wrist by a pitch in Kansas City. Oh my goodness. And I was going to complete the thought that starting him is a physically dangerous thing for him to do this year, and then he gets hit in the next pitch.
Now he got hit in the right hand in that Chicago series. This one in the left arm, yeah.
So 2 starts, 6 for 6. 2 times he's been hit by a pitch. He was nearly disemboweled by Sano in right field. And right on the elbow.
The ball came running in on him right on that. He has that pad, but I don't think it hit the pad. Just below it. Ew, right on the forearm. I don't know where Escobar is spending the night, but I would go in that room and lock the door.
Nunez, you mean?
I mean Nunez, yeah. Ouch.
That sounded loud.
Sounded like a foul ball.
Brian Dozier would be the backup, but Nunez is going to stay in the game. Yeah, we teases it bad by saying he's had an interesting night, and then he gets drilled by a fastball. Well, as we said when he got hit in Kansas City, while there might be some concern about his arms, the most important thing right now are his legs.
Well, 2 previous times base hits, he stayed at first base. Let's get him over to third, second, third, and home.
He bluffs towards second. Mauer takes ball 1 in the first inning. Nunez rolled a single up the middle, and Mauer sliced a liner to the corner and left, fielded by Gentry. Nunez had gone about a third of the way between second and third, had to retouch second, and just got back. Up and away, 2-0. 3rd time tonight that the Twins have had their leadoff man on. Nunez in the first, Nunez in the 6th, and then in the 5th inning, Park drew a leadoff walk. Two and 0 to Mauer. And a strike. Let's see where the outfield is playing Mauer. We haven't seen the Angels do much infield shifting in this series or in this game so far. They came into the game with the most shifts in Major League Baseball on the infield.
Remember Joe's first at bat, he tried butting the ball down that third baseline because Escobar was playing almost where shortstop plays, but now he's
I think
just over a little bit.
I think that's the only shift I've seen them put on, and Mauer got him out of it with the bunt attempt.
Richards throwing over. Nunez does have a stolen base in 3 attempts. There's Mike Scioscia, 2-time American League Manager of the Year.
Would love to get Nunez's legs in motion here. There he goes. Pitch chopped towards second. Nunez just avoids being hit by the batted ball. So he does advance to second, and in setting him in motion, Twins get a speedy runner in scoring position.
I think they were hoping that Joe would get a little better pitch than he got right there. I think it was a little hit and run right there. Joe, ball down and away, tried to pull that ball. Nunez, wow, luckily that ball did not hit his back foot. Is safe at second.
That's all he needs to complete the Triple Crown, right? He's had a collision in the outfield. He's been hit by a pitch. Now get hit by a batted ball. Here is Sano, and boy, do the Twins need Miguel Sano to come through here. And Richard sticks a fastball on the outside corner at 96. Twins need Sano to hit one that stays hit for a while. Off the plate, 1-1. I don't think anyone would have thought that Miguel Sano would have 30 at bats without an extra base hit. One and one to Sano. On the outside corner at 95.
Two good fastballs to get the strikes. A 96-mile-an-hour fastball, then the 95. Missed with the slider.
Top of this inning, the Angels got a runner in scoring position and got the hit to drive in the run. 2-2.
And missed with the slider. Sano last year drove in 52 runs in 80 games. He has 1 run batted in so far.
Jack to swing 3-2 with Plouffe on deck.
Perez is going to go out and talk to his pitcher what he wants to throw here.
Drawn 6 walks. Ian Mauer lead the team. To the left field corner, and Sano ties the game. A double for Miguel Sano, and the Twins have evened it at 1.
Well, it looked like they came back with a 3-2 slider, and he hung it, and Sano got good wood on it. And ties the game at 1 apiece with his second run batted in. So Nunez able to get to second base and scores on the double. Take a look at the pitch right here. Yeah, spinner, and it stayed up. And a good solid swing by Sano. Driving it down that left field line. Gentry has to retrieve it. And we got a tie ball game.
And now Plouffe. Sano driving in his second run, his first extra base hit. And cutter for a strike.
Hey, that's a positive. We haven't been able to talk about too many positive things up here.
First run producing hit since Sunday.
See if they can add on to that.
Swing and a miss. 0-2. Sano's actually hit the ball hard twice tonight. Back in the first inning, he lined out to Giavotella. 2 strikes for the Twins' third baseman. And now a ball. Foul over the Twins' dugout. Trevor with 2 extra base hits, a double and a home run among his 5 hits on the year.
Pitch number 90 coming into the plate for Richards.
Foul back. 96, but up a little bit. Trevor was able to get a piece of it. Just little things like Nunez advancing to second. Twins deciding to send Nunez on a ball hit to the second baseman. If not for the decision to send him, he would have been forced at second. And Maurer would have been the runner at first, if not a double play grounder. And now another foul.
Yeah, Trevor had an at-bat like this in his first at-bat in the first inning against Richards. Yeah, I still think that was a hit and run. You know, Paul just trying to make things happen a little bit. Joe had the count in his favor, 2 balls, 1 strike. With Nunez taken off, he does stay out of the possible double play, and he ends up scoring.
Another 1-2 pitch. 2-2. You can imagine, I think, that Paul Molitor spent a lot of time wondering about this team's start, things he could have done differently, strategically within the game or whatever. But maybe just little things like that. Starting the runner. You know, we talk about players' confidence and all that, but managers and coaches can suffer from a lack of confidence too. Did I do the right thing? Did I put the right people out there on a nightly basis?
That's a great game to second guess, but when you look yourself in the mirror, I think Paul's done everything he can to try to win ball games.
2-2 to Plouffe. Another pop-up, and Plouffe having a wonderful battle here with Garrett Richards.
You know, you can put the right guys you feel in the positions you feel comfortable with, but it's the players that have to produce, not the manager, not the coaches.
And all the talk, you know, last year, deservedly so, Torrey Hunter, what he meant to this team. Well, now he's not with the team. Torrey Hunter's never been able to help Trevor Plouffe when he's in the box. No. You know, these are battles that, and Trevor's having one of those battles right now. You got to figure it out on your own.
Hopefully Richards makes a mistake like he did to Sano.
To center and hit hard. Trout back, still going back over his head. A tremendous at bat for Trevor Plouffe. Scoring as Sano and the Twins take a 2-1 lead. Man, was that a sight for sore eyes.
Plouffe getting his second double, driving in his third run. So the Twins, for the third time this year, have put a crooked number on the board. Tell you what, good at bat, got a fastball down, and that ball carried a long way over the head of Mike Trout. One hopping the fence. Sano scoring the go-ahead run. And a double by Trevor Plouffe.
That's an extreme example, but that was a really good at bat, and in the end Richards didn't exactly throw him a cookie. That was a fastball down and away, and Trevor with a good swing on it.
Well, he fouled off a couple nasty pitches. Remember that fastball that he just kind of flicked the bat at and hit it in foul territory?
couple of solid doubles, and look where the pitch was, down and out of the strike zone.
Not a bad pitch, down, but Trevor just got good wood on it and drove it to the deepest part of the field.
And we'll see what Arcia can do. Twins, as Bert suggested, have not had a 3-run inning yet this year. Missing inside. Angels have been out hit 6-4. The Twins have a 2-1 lead. Out in front.
Good change up there by Richards.
Up and away, pick off to second, and get it back safely is Blue. Talking about that the other day, I've always been amazed that catchers don't do that more often. Now that's a tougher throw because it's a longer throw, but throwing to bases after the pitch would seem to me as an underutilized means of holding runners closer.
Well, you can see Perez likes to throw. He's got a great arm.
2-1 to Arcia. Fouled away, 2-2.
And with the shift on, Simmons right basically behind Trevor Plouffe at second base. And as a base runner like Trevor, when that pitch comes toward home plate, he wants to get a good jump in case it's a base hit somewhere and score. See the pitch count, 98 pitches. Seventh pitch thrown by Richards this inning.
Tap to the right side. Easy play for the first baseman Cron. That's just the second out. And Plouffe goes to third. Now Arcia needed or wanted to do more than that, but that's not an insignificant 90 feet. Trevor doesn't run particularly well. If Park gets a base hit, wild pitch, anything, it would mean another run, at least in the thinnest of terms. That was a productive out. It advanced a runner. Arcia put the ball in play.
And what we have seen from Richards is that he'll throw that breaking ball in the dirt. Ball might get away from Perez.
Park drew a walk his last time up. Up and away, ball one. Park walked and went to second on a wild pitch on strike 3 to Escobar.
Ooh, good swing.
Pitch up.
Just got underneath it.
One and one to Park. Two and one. Fouled away. 96 miles per hour. And again, it's all part of the adjustment. Jung Ho Kang of Pittsburgh took him a couple of months, they say, in Pittsburgh before he was able to speed up his approach at the plate to catch up with 96 miles per hour. Two and two to Byung Ho Park. Toward the hole, cut off by Simmons, and a nice snatch at first by Cron. A backhanded flip. He dug out a low throw that kept the Twins from adding another run. A couple of runs for the Twins, and they take a 2-1 lead. In front in the bottom of the sixth. Follow Twins baseball live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Customize at-bat to feature the Twins and stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Plus, subscribe to At-Bat Premium to get the MLB.TV game of the day, radio broadcast, in-game highlights, enhanced game day features, and more. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Download MLB.com At-Bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Well, Tommy Malone knows how important this inning is. Get some quick outs here.
Tickles the outside corner, 1-1.
Pitch count outstanding for Tommy. 70 pitches. 48 strikes.
On the right field line. And Sano chases it to the corner. It's out of play.
Future Hall of Famer right here. Albert Pujols.
Of course.
Yep.
I don't know that the Angels will ever get the numbers that he put up in St. Louis, particularly towards the end of his 10-year deal. 1-2 to Pujols. Cron and Calhoun will follow. And not close, 2-2.
Pujols, a 10-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove winner, 3-time National League MVP.
That's deep to the right field corner.
That's strength.
Gone. Tie game.
My goodness.
His first of the year, and it ties the game at 2.
Looked like an off-speed pitch away, and his strength and power just took it over the limestone in right field. Home run career number 561.
Remember when Target Field was opening up years ago? Pujols and the Cardinals came in as we take a look at Fox Tracks presented by Carrier. And after batting practice and the first game, I asked Pujols what he thought of Target Field, and he said it looked like they made it for Mauer and Morneau because of where he just hit the ball.
Right.
Now, of course, we know Joe didn't, and for that matter, neither did Justin, pull many home runs here at Target Field. But now Pujols takes advantage of the short porch and right to tie the game. Here is Cron. Cron 0 for 2 with a strikeout. He is now 3 for 31 on the season.
I know Tommy would like to have that changeup back and keep it down like he has so far throughout the ballgame. He just left it up there.
And now 3-0 to Crone with Calhoun on deck.
Ryan Presley warming up in the Twins bullpen.
You talked about the importance of the next inning, and then within that, of course, the very next hitter, and Pujols ties it up. There's a strike, 3-1. Crone certainly not someone you want to walk.
He has some pop in that bat. Crone at 6'4".
And he takes a walk.
First walk for Malone.
Pitch count, as you see, still very good. And Paul Molitor working a man short. It goes beyond that. Of course, Perkins put on the disabled list the other day. Fernando Abad's got plenty of experience, but he's not here. He went back to the Dominican Republic. There's Ryan Presley warming up. The only left-hander in the pen is Taylor Rogers, and he made his major league debut yesterday.
That was a good one. 2/3 of an inning. Did give up a hit, but worked out of it.
Here is Calhoun.
Tommy probably left in the ball game right here because of who's up, the left-handed hitter Calhoun.
Down and away, ball 1. And after the home run, Malone having a hard time throwing strikes. Ooh, nearly thrown away. Or had to lean into the runner. Keep the ball from going to the tarp.
Yeah, Malone has 13 pickoffs in his career. See Joe having to reach behind Crone to get it in the glove.
One and 0 to Calhoun. Angels have only 2 stolen bases, and Pujols has one of those. Check swing and a bouncer. 1-1. Angels hope that having Calhoun behind Crone will help get Crone's bat going a little bit, but now Malone's walked him.
Twins have turned 2 double plays behind Malone here tonight.
That's hit a long way to right field. And the Angels take a 2-run lead. That ball absolutely crushed. And the Angels strike back for at least 3 very quickly here in the 7th.
Yeah, looked like another off-speed pitch. Calhoun ends up hitting his first home run of the year. Angels came into this ball game with only 3 home runs as a club. Another changeup looked like stayed right up, and Calhoun waited back nicely and showed off his power.
And the issues for Malone again. First 2 times through the batting order, very effective against the Angels, but then Escobar rifled an RBI double in the 6th. Third time he saw Malone. A couple of home runs sandwiched around a walk, and Malone leaves with the Twins down by 2.
couple of runs to take the lead. The Angels come back and strike for 3.
They take all the fun out of it. Ryan Pressly coming in, making his 6th relief appearance. He has been outstanding out of that bullpen. 6 2/3 innings over his first 5 appearances. 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, 5 hits allowed.
And Pressly reaches back, fires a fastball over for strike 1. A note on the Pujols game-tying home run. He's now hit 116 home runs for the Angels. 2 of them have gone to right field. 0-2 to Simmons. That's looped into right. That's a base hit. And Sano scoops up and will hold Simmons to a single. So all 4 batters have reached here in the top of the 7th.
Simmons picks up his first hit, fought off a fastball, hit it into right center.
Carlos Perez with a pair of singles, and on his 2nd single, Rosario juggled the ball in center field. Perez alertly took second base, ended up scoring on the Escobar double for the first run of the game. There haven't been many leads for the Twins, and even fewer late inning leads, but the Twins have had a few of those and let them slip away. Twice in Baltimore, once in Kansas City. There's a strike over the inside corner. One strike. There goes the runner. Pitch chopped toward third. That'll be a tough play. Barehanded by Plouffe. Firing. Nice play by both corner infielders. Plouffe with the charging throw, and Bauer with a tall stretch at first.
We've seen some nice defensive plays for both sides of the diamond here tonight, but Plouffe comes in, barehands it on the run, has to get something on it, throw a little bit high. Joe has to reach high and keep his foot on the bag for the second out. Excuse me, the first out. And on the play with Simmons taken off, he stays at second.
Giavotella the batter. Only 1 out. And a big runner left at second. Here's a weak pop up right side. Nunez looks at Sano, who comes in to make the catch. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. He's going to be very aware of where the big man is on a ball like that.
He was running out toward center field. Once he heard Sano said, "I have it, I'm taking off."
2 down, and Simmons at second for Yunel Escobar. It was Escobar who, in the 4th inning, a little pop fly between Nunez and Sano. There was a violent but thankfully a harmless collision, and Escobar had a leadoff double. He tried for third, and it took a tremendous accurate and strong throw from Joe Mauer to nail him at third. Check swing and a strike.
Escobar new to the Angels, coming over from the Washington Nationals, where he had .314 last year in 139 games. 33 years old, defected from Cuba back in 2004. Signed by the Braves.
Hack foul, and the screen just saved an injury. A
wicked liner toward the end of the Twins dugout, and the new netting grabbed it. Was headed for someone, and
yes, it was.
Screen intercepted it. 0-2. Check swing. Did he go? No, says first base umpire John Tumpane.
Yeah, Escobar came flying out, asking Alan Porter, maybe. No, I didn't go.
No.
Very close.
And missing low. 1-2. Simmons dropped a single into right center field after the Calhoun home run. Chopper left side. Plouffe digs out the
Nice
second
play.
out. Trevor Plouffe with a couple of nice plays in the inning, but the Angels strike for 3 and retake the lead. Calhoun with a 2-run home run to put the Angels in front. And now the Angels turning the game over to their bullpen with the bottom third of the Twins lineup due up.
Yeah, Greg Mahle coming out of the ballgame. Mahle, excuse me, 23 years old. He just got called up from AAA on April 16th. Mahle making his second relief appearance in the big leagues. Just 1 inning so far and 1 strikeout.
And Cliff Pennington now in at second base. Have a ball, I believe it's a baseball, on the base of the wall and left. And home plate umpire Alan Porter asking Craig Gentry to get it off the field to play. The Angels came back, took care of the Twins' late inning lead. We'll see if the Twins have an answer. Strike 1 to Escobar, who struck out twice against Garrett Richards. And now 2 strikes. Rosario and Suzuki will follow. Up and down, submarine, and he strikes out Escobar.
Like I said, Malley uses different arm slots. And he dropped down right there with a fastball and picks up a strikeout. His second big league strikeout. Looks like a little cutter.
You expect the ball to be coming at you about 4 feet higher than it ended up being released. Here is Rosario. Bouncer to first and a strikeout. And Rosario takes a strike. Two strikes. The winning number in the Twins season so far this year seems to be 4. The other guys have gotten it 5 times. The Twins have yet to get there. Actually 6 times off the plate. Twins scored 3 runs in the first game in Kansas City and then in the second game in Kansas City. Otherwise it's been 1s and 2s and a couple of 0s. The Atlanta Braves won tonight. So as we play here in the bottom of the 7th inning, the Twins are the only winless team in baseball. One and 2. Two and 2.
Born right there in Southern California in Westminster, not too far from Anaheim Stadium.
And now Rosario's run the count full with Suzuki on deck. And Rosario trying to duplicate Trevor Plouffe's at bat. He's had a couple of nasty pitches to fight off, and he's fought them off. And Rosario draws a 1-out walk. Casino's story of the game with no scoring through 5 innings, and then things heated up.
Yeah, the Angels put a run on the board in the top of the 6th inning with an RBI double by Escobar, but the Twins came back in the bottom of the 6th. An RBI double by Sano, then a great at-bat for Trevor Plouffe, driving in Sano, giving the Twins a 2-1 lead. But then in the bottom, it's going to be top of the 7th inning, Albert Pujols with a solo home run, and then 2 hitters later, Cole Calhoun made it a 4-2 Angel lead.
And the Angels congratulate Molly. And now Kurt Suzuki will hit against a new reliever. get this game tied up. Eddie Rosario's just drawn a walk. And now Mike Morin will come in to face Kurt Suzuki.
Yeah, Mike Morin, a right-hander, making his 6th relief appearance. Total of 4 innings. He's given up a couple runs, 1 home run, walked with 4 strikeouts. Morin in his 3rd season with the Angels. Up and down the last couple years.
Suzuki 0 for 2. A strikeout swinging in the 3rd and a bouncer to short in the 5th. Ball 1. Angels got a run on the top of the 6th, and the Twins responded with a couple. Then the Angels got 3. Trying to get at least 1 back here in the bottom of the 7th. Inside, but it's called a strike. 1-1. Suzuki raised his arms, and the pitch caught the corner. Fly ball short left, retreating is Simmons. And he makes the catch for out number 2. And that'll bring up Eduardo Nunez, who's had maybe the most interesting night of his life.
Right, dove back too late into the bag, kind of jammed that right hand, and then he had the collision with Sano, and luckily he was okay. Explaining what happened. Albert Pujols, a little wake-up call. But he's been on base all 3 times. Double base hits, and then right there being hit by the pitch.
Nunez, as a starter, has come to the plate 8 times and reached all 8 times. Strike on the outside corner. Fouled back, 2 strikes. Nunez hit by a pitch and then took off for second on Mauer's chopper to second. And Sano and Plouffe followed with solid doubles. And the Twins had a very brief lead at 2-1.
Yeah, Morin, 24 years old, born in Andover, Minnesota. Grew up in Kansas.
Time called just as Morin was ready to break from the stretch.
Morin fastball in the low 90s. Very good changeup and a slider.
Breaking ball, missing low. It's 1-2. Dozier with the bat at the ready. Pretty good bet. I would think that they'll get a chance to pinch hit here later in the ball game. Inside, 2-2. Rosario had to work for his walk. He's already on base, and now Nunez trying to get aboard somehow as well. Change up. No swing, and his at bat is still alive, and Nunez almost folded in half trying to check that swing.
Watch this pitch right here. Watch this big changeup. Whoa, brings him to his knees.
So now the count's full, and with 2 down, Rosario will take off. Cron, the first baseman, will play off the bag. popped up, back, and out of play. Another 3-2 coming with Mauer on deck. Slow breaking ball, scolded down the line, an extra base hit. Rosario around third, he'll score. Nunez with a big RBI double, and it's a 4-3 ball game.
And Eduardo Nunez just continues to hit. Worked the count to 3-2, got a fastball in, and pulled it right down that left field line. His third hit of the ball game, driving in his second run of the year. So on the 3-2 pitch, Rosario off with the pitch home. A changeup that stayed up. And Nunez jumped all over it. Hit it sharply into the corner down in left field. And Rosario scores from first base.
Given what had happened to the Twins in the top of this inning, a big 2-out double, driving in a run, and Mauer will hit next against Alvarez.
What is Nooney?
Nooney. Goofball loves him some Latin music.
Kind of a funny guy. Funniest laugh on the team, that's for sure.
Nooney's a pro. He's played in New York. He's played on the big stages. He's played in the playoffs.
Guy that's been around a little bit. He knows what he needs to do.
He goes up there. He's gonna give you a professional at bat, and he's just kind of the ultimate team pro.
In a season on a team that has been starving for hits and runs, Nunez as a starter has reached all 9 times he's been to the plate. 7 hits, 2 hit batsmen. And now Jose Alvarez with Mauer at the plate has Nunez at second as the tying run.
Alvarez in his 3rd season with the Angels is 26 years old. Twins saw him a little bit when he was with the Tigers too.
Takes a strike on the outside corner, and that stare back at Alan Porter. He thought that pitch was outside.
And a little cut fastball by Alvarez. Also has a curveball and a changeup. Very good changeup.
Nunez, of course, runs well. A hit to the outfield should tie the game. Off the plate, 1-1. Porter, the catcher Perez wants to go out and talk to Alvarez. Got a runner at second. 1-1. Again on the outside corner.
And working that slider cutter away to Joe.
One and two to Joe Mauer. Liner to left. Base hit. Nunez flying around third, and the Twins have tied it up.
One too many sliders. He left that baby up, and Joe slapping it into left field. And Nunez scoring for the second time in a ball game. After 3 sliders down and away, that breaking ball left up. And the Twins tie this at 4 apiece. So Joe picking up an RBI on his first hit, his 3rd RBI of the year.
2 of the biggest, if not the 2 biggest 2-out hits for the Twins this year have tied it in the 7th. The Angels will go 1 man deeper into their bullpen.
We're not really sure. Sometimes we think he does it on purpose. Too fast.
It slows him down, he says.
That thing, he just, I don't know what happens.
He says that his helmet's a perfect fit.
His helmet's 4 sizes too big.
His helmet is too big for him. We got to get that through his thick skull.
I wish I could have the answer, but I can't. I don't know why.
Yeah, where's it going to fall? There it is, right there. Helmet coming off, and Nunez scoring the tying run.
And now Sano facing Fernando Salas.
Salas in his 3rd season with the Angels, spent some time with the Cardinals, 4 years from 2010 to 2013. Very tight slider, changeup, and a fastball, not overpowering.
Outside corner strike. Sano tonight's hit the ball hard twice. He lined out to Giavatello, the second baseman at the time, back in the 1st inning. And then an RBI double. And he hooked into the left field corner in the 6th. Down and away, 1-1.
Salas out of Mexico, signed by the Cardinals as a free agent back in 2007. Last year, 72 relief appearances for the Angels.
Swing and a miss, 1-2.
There's that tight slider.
The Angels, like the Twins, have a 7-man bullpen, and the Twins have seen 4 relievers this inning alone. One and 2 to Miguel Sano. Up high. First time this year the Twins have scored 4 runs in a game, but it'll take more than that to win a ball game. 3-2. Bauer at first. Plouffe on deck. Cron playing in front of the runner. Seems an odd position to play a first baseman in this situation. Slow chopper to short. Simmons has an easy play, and he throws him out to end the inning. But the Twins get a couple of big 2-out hits to tie the game at 4. First Eduardo Nunez, and then Joe Mauer.
Studio Sports Update. Saturday brings a day-night baseball hockey doubleheader on Fox Sports North. Join us at 12:30. Twins Live gets you ready for the Twins and the Angels. And then at 6 p.m., a 1-hour Wild Live pregame show, followed by Game 2, the Wild and the Dallas Stars.
Clutch hitting has been non-existent for the Twins so far this year, but they got a couple of big 2-out hits in the 7th. One by Nunez, one by Mauer, and we're tied at 4.
And with a tie ball game, Trevor May coming in to start the top of the 8th inning and hopefully finish it, making his 6th relief appearance. He worked in yesterday's ball game 2/3 of an inning in a Twins 3-1 loss to the White Sox. Through 20 pitches, 12 for strikes.
Off the plate. Trevor's command hasn't been as sharp as it was when he was a very effective reliever late in games last year. Gentry's 0 for 3, hasn't gotten a ball out of the infield. 1-0.
You see the overpowering fastball from May.
Right-handed batters Gentry, Trout, and Pujols to face May here in the 8th. Fouled away, 1-2. Again, as we move through the 8th and 9th and maybe more innings after that, Twins are without Fernando Abad tonight, who is leaving for the Dominican Republic because of his grandmother's death. 2-2. And with Glenn Perkins being on the disabled list, placed there a couple days ago. The only left-hander in the pen is Taylor Rogers with all of one major league inning under his belt. 2-2 from May to Gentry. Got him.
Throws him.
94 down and away on the black. One down.
After those high fastballs, Gentry had to adjust his eye angle and watch this pitch knee high over the heart of the plate.
You know, you brought up that phrase. I'm glad you did, because we hear pitching coaches, managers, and even pitchers talk about that, changing the eye angle, and that appeared to be exactly what happened there. He's looking up here, and the ball down and away, which was always tough to hit, but you get a guy looking upstairs and you throw it down around his knees and he can't pull the trigger.
That ball just exploded on him.
1-0 now to Mike Trout. Slow breaking ball, and it's over for a strike.
2 straight breaking balls, 1 missed, 1 for a strike.
Vicious swing and a miss. Two and two from May.
Fastball.
Just off the corner. Just wide of the plate. 3-2 with Pujols on deck.
Now Suzuki wanting it away, and it just off the plate.
Trout is very strikeout prone. May trying to get him here in the 8th. Foul straight back. In his 4 full years in the big leagues, Trout's averaged more than 150 strikeouts a year. Led the league with 184 strikeouts and 602 at bats 2 years ago. Oh, and by the way, he was the league MVP that year.
Right.
Foul back again.
It's when he doesn't strike out that you're in trouble.
Maybe we should blame him for all the strikeouts. Everybody says, hey, well, Mike Trout strikes out a lot. Problem is everybody else is striking out so much they're not hitting 35, 40 home runs a year and driving in 100 runs. May trying to keep the bases clean. Walked him. A 1-out walk, bringing up Pujols.
Well, the Twins had just taken a 2-1 lead going to the top of the 7th inning against Tommy Milone. Albert Pujols took that changeup the other way, and that tied the game at 2 apiece. His first home run of the year.
Just his 2nd home run to the opposite field as an Angel. Slow breaking ball on the outside corner. Keep an eye on Trout. He still can steal bases.
And the Twins do. They throw over.
Remembering that in Kansas City, May threw over. Terrence Gore took advantage of the errant pickoff throw and took 2 bases. Kind of a tentative throw over by May. Long hold and a step off. Open away. It's a deadly combination. You got Trout, who when he's not hitting home runs, when he's at first, because he still is a base stealing threat, in a key spot like this, you have to pay some attention to him, but then you have the specter of Pujols standing in the box.
And he's got Pujols right here to protect him too. Trout, not the base stealer he was when he first came up. He actually led the American League with 49 stolen bases in 2012. Last year stole only 11.
But he's got one this year. You've seen the 1-1 pitch. Very high, and that might be what we were seeing from Trevor May. A little distraction here with the Trout at first. A couple of non-competitive pitches here to Pujols.
Yeah, then what happens is you start falling behind on that hitter. Now you have to come in with a hittable pitch because you're worried about the guy at first.
Look at that stolen base percentage. Outstanding, 84%. 2-1.
Good changeup there. That's a great pitch right there. He's got a good fastball. He showed that already. Hard breaking ball. So sure, Pujols, that's the last pitch he's looking for. Count was in his favor. 2-1. Now it's 2-2.
Fastball again. Head high. And now the count's 3-2. Trout very likely will be going. As productive as he's been, Pujols has never struck out 100 times in a season. Trout off with the pitch, and the ball hooked foul. Just think of that. As destructive as he's been, he's led the league in scoring runs, runs batted in, home runs, intentional walks. And the most he's ever struck out in the big leagues, 76 times, twice.
Puts the ball in play.
Trout goes. Foul back. Still 3-2. Another 3-2 to Pujols. Deep to the left field corner, hooking foul. And of course Trout off on the pitch again. So now you're Trevor May and you've thrown Pujols everything in your toolbox. And he gets a piece of everything, and at that time a pretty hard piece. Trout will go again. Ball 4.
He tried the curveball and he missed.
2 men aboard for C.J. Cron.
Back-to-back walks for Trevor May. Well, with Mike Trout on, of course, Trevor May paying some attention. There's a good curveball right there. Came back with a fastball. 1-1 count. And overthrew that pitch. Good changeup right there, but then again Suzuki had to fight to catch it. Pujols hit that ball and then pop up foul. Tried to 3-2 breaking ball. That's one. And just missed.
Neil Allen to the mound, 2 men aboard, a couple of walks and a strikeout. Nobody's put the ball in play here in the 8th inning. And Cron struggling, drew a walk and scored on Calhoun's home run. Cron hitting less than 100, 097. Drew his 3rd walk in 31 at bats in the 7th inning. Slow breaking ball over, strike 1. Fouled back, 2 strikes. Key batter because Calhoun is on deck, a left-handed batter, and the Twins may not even have a left-hander available to them out of the pen, given the rookie status of Taylor Rogers.
That's Casey Fien warming up in the Twins bullpen.
Nice dig by Suzuki. May has really been all over the place here in the 8th inning.
Well, see where Suzuki set up more inside, and then that ball down and away.
One and 2. Hook foul. Allowed strike.
Cron last year hit .262 in 113 ball games for the Angels. As you mentioned, off to a slow start. Struck out only 6 times in 31 at-bats. And we make it 7.
And you look up there now, May. No one's put a ball in play, and this will be his 28th pitch of the inning. What he wants more than anything else, of course, is a ground ball hit at somebody here. Maybe get 2 outs on 1 pitch with Fien warming up. Breaking ball. Great stop. Escobar safe at first. Escobar with a run-saving stop behind the second base bag. The Twins get 1. But not 2.
Well, we've seen some nice defensive plays by Escobar here tonight. That ball looked like it was going to go up the middle. He dove for it. Able to do a little shovel pass. And then the relay throw. Cron getting down that line quickly, staying out of the double play. Another nice defensive play by Escobar.
And now Calhoun. Twins are considering challenging this. That's why May's not on the mound yet. And it looked like he clearly beat it.
Yep.
It's not even that close. So now May will be left in to face Calhoun, who hit a home run his last time up against Tommy Milone. If Fernando Abad were here, he very likely would have been brought in to face Calhoun here. In the dirt, ball 1. Fien warming up. The Twins deciding to let May try to get Calhoun and keep this game tied. Oh, Suzuki with a run-saving block on a terrible pitch that landed in the batter's box. And that may have gotten Suzuki's bare hand.
Boy, Suzuki getting a great workout here. You can see that. Oh, my goodness.
May has been all over the place here this inning. So far, he has kept this a 4-4 game. And the count now 2-0. The base is open, but it's second base. Simmons, the on-deck hitter.
You don't want to throw this guy a cookie either.
Missing inside, 3-0. 31 pitches in this 8th inning for Trevor May. And a 4-pitch walk. 3 walks in the 8th inning. And Paul Molitor is going to have to make a move, trying to milk as many outs as he can from May, but he was only able to get 2 of them.
A little pitch by pitch to Calhoun right here. Breaking ball missed, and then Suzuki made a great stop right there, keep the runners at first and third. And then he had another one wild, and now watch this pitch right here. Not a bad pitch, but if you're the umpire, you're all over the place. You can't expect the umpire to call that.
They're loaded with walks. Casey Fiend will try to get the Twins off the field. Trevor May, 3 walks, and the Angels have a threat here. Casey Fiend will try to get Simmons to wrap things up in a tie game.
Yeah, Casey Fiend making his first appearance here at Target Field. His 3 previous outings on the road, a couple in Baltimore, 1 in Kansas City. And 2 of the 3 did not go well for Casey Fiend. But he's asked to get the final out here in the 8th inning.
Trout is at third. Pujols, or excuse me, Cron is at second, and Calhoun is at first. So you force the incoming reliever to throw strikes. That typically has not been a problem for Casey Fiend. There's no place to put him.
Casey Fiend, fastball, slider, a lot of cutters.
Fouled away, 1 strike.
There's a fastball at 94.
Simmons a single in 3 trips. He bounced into an inning-ending double play in the 5th, and incredibly, it's his 5th ground ball double play already this year, leading the league. Angels have hit into 12. Twins don't need to turn 2. They need to get 1. Off the plate, 1-1. to right field. Sano in the corner. Ends it. Fiend gets the final out of the 8th inning. The Angels fill them up with walks but don't score.
At Target Field, the Twins are looking for a run and looking for their first win of the season. Coming up after the game, we'll bring you Twins Live, presented by CenturyLink. Hope to be talking about that first win of the season. We'll also look at the very eventful night of Eduardo Nunez, who is 3 for 3 and has reached base all 4 times he's been at the plate. He's been hit by a pitch. He's been hit by a Sano. It's been an eventful evening at the ballpark. We'll also hear from the manager, Paul Molitor, right after the game. Dick and Burke.
All right, Sal is still in there for the Angels. Trevor Plouffe will lead things off. Big swing and a miss, 1 strike. The thing that's nice about this game, if the Twins win, there will be a handful, more than one, really good at bat that led the Twins to a win, and Plouffe's 6th inning at bat would be maybe at the top of the list. We'll see what happens. Inside, nearly hit him 1-on-1. And he looks back at Alan Porter. Now, hit by pitches can be reviewed. And Trevor Plouffe is talking it over with Porter. Paul Molitor up on the top step of the dugout. Did this hit Plouffe?
Fastball in, Trevor.
Boy. Jersey wasn't ruffled. Doesn't appear to be any evidence for the Twins to use a challenge.
Might have nicked his elbow. That's about the only thing that I think our replay showed. And the Twins say no. No challenge.
And the count's 1-1. Well, it's good for Trevor if he's going to follow up by hitting a home run. 1-2. Two to Plouffe. On the ground sharply into center field. Plouffe has his 2nd hit, and the leadoff man is on in the 8th.
Well, you're mentioning in his last at bat in the 6th inning when he got the RBI double. Remember, in the bottom of the 1st, he had a good at bat against Richards. Here, gets a fastball down, not a lot of movement. Hit this ball sharply right back up the middle.
It's about where that pitch was when he hit the ringing double over the head of Mike Trout. Here is Oswaldo Arcia. in the dirt dug out by Perez. Keep this in mind as we move through the 8th inning. While the Twins don't believe Byron Buxton will be able to swing a bat tonight, he is available to pinch run.
I got a call right here, Dick.
Okay. Of
long ball.
Okay.
We need a home run.
It would be Arcia's first hit of the year. Rifle to right. Calhoun is there.
I tell you what, I thought he gets underneath that baby. That's gone.
A well hit out. And now Byung-Ho Park will hit.
Salas took a little off that pitch.
Park 0 for 2 with a walk. Struck out in the 2nd, walked in the 5th, and bounced out to short in the 6th. And again, Perez, who really has made an impression on me here tonight. My goodness, he's made a lot of blocks. A strong pickoff throw to 2nd.
I tell you what, it's been a night of both catchers doing a great job back there. Suzuki, how many times he blocked a ball? Perez, same thing.
Checked his swing, and it's 2-0. Talking about Park drawing that leadoff walk in the 5th inning. That was kind of a long plate appearance, and he took some close pitches after falling behind. Ended up drawing a walk, and now he's shown some evidence of seeing the ball pretty well again here in the 8th. Uses his arms, and it's a called strike. 2-1. Three and one.
See if he gets a hittable pitch here.
Foul, 3-2. Plouffe doesn't run particularly well. He's the runner at first. Park has been very strikeout prone. We wouldn't expect Plouffe to take off here. Escobar, the on-deck hitter.
That's why he'll send him right here.
You're saying I'm no better manager up here than I am umpire.
Plouffe's going to take off right here.
Really?
Yep. Salas has given up 2 home runs already. See, they're worried about him. They're throwing over.
You really think he's going to go?
Yeah.
Full count to Park.
He stayed.
And the ball tap foul.
Come on, Trevor, let's go. Trevor has 10 stolen bases in his career. He's been caught 9 times.
4 hits for Park and 27 at bats. Hoping to deliver a big hit here for the Twins. Down the left field line. Down for a hit. Plouffe round second on his way to third.
Get by him.
Sliding is Gentry in the warning track. Plouffe being waved around. The throw to the plate, not in time. And Park delivers the RBI to put the Twins in front.
See, if he had been taken off when I said, he wouldn't have to be sliding across home plate. Now Gentry cut that ball off. He had a little trouble getting to that ball, and that allowed Gene Glenn to tell Trevor Plouffe to keep coming. So a big 2-run double by Byung-Ho Park, picking up his second RBI on his second double as a Minnesota Twin.
His biggest hit as a Twin. We thought the home run in Kansas City might have been
his biggest hit as a Twin, and then the lead was lost. Here is Rosario. Excuse me, Escobar. He pops up the first pitch, and it's over the Angel dugout. And the Twins still have Buxton's speed available on the bench. Park remains at second base. Escobar has struck out 3 times. Played a whale of a game at short.
Let's take a look at Byung-ho Park's swing right here. Ball left up, lining it into the corner. Now watch Gentry. He goes after it. He slides after this ball, and then the ball got away from him, and that's what Gene Glenn saw. And he told Trevor Plouffe to keep going. Whistle Dixie, Trevor.
2 strikes. High and tight. Escobar went down swinging in the 2nd, swinging in the 5th, and looking in the 7th. Another 1-2 pitch to left field. Caught by Gentry. A well hit ball for the 2nd out, and that'll bring up Rosario. Rosario drew a walk his last time up and scored on Nunez's double.
The Twins would like a base hit right here. Drive in Park for a little insurance run.
The base is open here, and Suzuki's on deck, and they will walk Rosario. Suzuki 0 for 3. 2 hits, 22 at bats on the season. 2 hits have each been extra base hits, and they both came in the same game. Kevin Jepson will get the save opportunity unless the Twins erupt for a bigger inning here. He was warming up to pitch the 9th inning regardless. So now Suzuki. Jepson, the Twins putting Glenn Perkins on the disabled list 2 days ago, playing a man short of the bullpen with a bod, leaving the country for a few days. On the outside corner. A lot of red jerseys out there. Everybody's wearing red tonight. A couple of them are Twins base runners. It's blocked by Perez. It's 1-1. Inning in Kansas City on Sunday and saw the Royals come back and tie it up. Trying to add another insurance run or 2 here in the 8th. Fouled away, 1-2. Suzuki is trying to go the other way on a pitch away from it.
What a lot of his game is, you leave a pitch out over the plate, he'll take it to right field.
1-2 to the Twins catcher. High fly center field. Trout comes in to end the inning. The Twins get a leadoff single from Trevor Plouffe. Byung-Ho Park drives him in. And Kevin Jepsen will have a save opportunity here at Target Field in the ninth. Five to 4, the Twins trying to pick up their first win of the year. And Kevin Jepsen trying to pick up the first save for the Twins. He's had a difficult go of it this year. When he filled in for Glenn Perkins in the second half of the season last year, he was outstanding.
Yeah, 10 saves. He has 20 major league saves, 5 of those coming when he was a member of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. 5 with the Tampa Bay Rays, and then 10 last year with the Twins.
We know now why Buxton did not enter the game to pinch run for Byung-Ho Park, the designated hitter. He wouldn't have been able to be put into center field in that capacity. Buxton's in center, Kepler's in right, and Rosario moving to left. Carlos Perez will lead things off for the Angels. Off the plate, ball 1.
First Target debut this year for Kevin Jepsen. Last time he worked was Sunday in Kansas City. 1 shutout inning.
1-0. And a pitch toward the outside corner, fouled away. Jepsen still has a lot of friends with the Angels. Spent parts of 7 years with the Angels before starting last year with the Rays, being dealt to the Twins. 1-1 to Carlos Perez. And another foul. The next scheduled hitter is Pennington, who entered the game defensively for Giavatello. Daniel Nava, I believe, is in the on-deck circle right now, or is that Pennington? Number 42. It is Pennington. One and 2 to Perez. In the dirt. That ball landed 5 feet in front of the plate, and Perez nearly offered at it. When Jepson was so good as the closer, he had a great feel for his changeup. And in talking about Jepson's struggles this year, Paul Molitor has said that he just has not gotten the feel for that changeup. It looked like that might have been what he threw there on that pitch in the dirt. 2-2. Now a breaking ball fills the count. The Twins got away with 3 walks in the 8th inning. And the last thing Jepson wants to do here in the 9th is to start the inning off with another walk.
We're going to go ahead and throw a fastball right here. Missed with a changeup, missed with the slider.
A hit or two should know that a fastball is coming here.
And it's high for ball 4.
4th walk in the 8th and 9th inning. Time now for What's Next, brought to you by CenturyLink. Day game after a night game. Jared Weaver had a terrible spring training, but he pitched awfully well in his debut, and so too did Ricky Nolasco. He pitched a great ball game in Kansas City.
Yes, he did.
Pinch runner is Choi. Pennington at the plate. Bloof playing a step or two in front of the bag at third. First pitch fouled away. The guys that were so instrumental in what was a good late inning bullpen last year, Perkins, Fiend, May, Jepson, they've all had their difficulties through this 9-game losing streak. Runner goes, pitch chop to third. Blue fires across. Choi advances into scoring position, 1 away. Pennington just trying to put the ball in play to see if he might find a hole. He hit a 1-hopper to Plouffe with Choi on the run.
Yeah, Choi taking off right there. Pennington moving him over. Maybe a hit and run.
Now Yunel Escobar. Then Gentry, and then you'd rather not know who's hitting behind Gentry.
Haven't seen a lot of Escobar, but he goes up there swinging the bat. He ready on that first pitch. Make it a quality pitch.
Breaking ball misses. Jepson just not having the command of his secondary stuff. Even the walk to Perez was on a fastball that wasn't close to a strike. 1-0. And Escobar chases 95 across the letters. Foul.
Another high fastball.
Well, from Jepson's standpoint, if it's the only pitch you can throw close to the strike zone, you got to come back with it, don't you?
Well, you got a pitch to waste right here. Now he could maybe try that breaking ball in the dirt and see if Escobar chases it. This is a time that you can work on that changeup or slider. With Escobar sitting dead red.
Check swing, nope. 2-2.
Yeah, they went with the fastball up. And Escobar able to hold up.
Good check.
Hold it back.
Bouncer to second. Easy play for Nunez. Choi moves to third. 2 down for Gentry.
You can see on your monitor, Jepson doesn't have a sinking fastball. He just lets it fly. And Escobar, thank goodness, hit the ground ball to second. This is Nava.
Troy, the tying run at third. Looks like Nava.
Daniel Nava in his first season with the Angels. Last year with the Tampa Bay Rays. Crowd on their feet.
Mike Trout's in the on-deck circle. Blocked by Suzuki. Breaking ball again that was delivered low. Suzuki probably wasn't going to catch tomorrow anyway, but man alive, if the Twins win this game, Nunez will get star of the game, but Suzuki's been wonderful behind the plate.
He'll get all the ice he wants after the game.
1-0 to Nava. Swing and a miss. Jepson, I'm sure, frustrated with his inability to throw anything else for strikes. Has blown 2 fastballs by Nava. Got him. And in the season's 10th game, the Minnesota Twins finally get their first win.
Thank goodness it's over with. Great win for the Twins. Look at the boys walking out on the field to congratulate themselves. This is awesome.
More good at bats in the last 2 innings than we've seen in the first 9 games. Casey Fiend got an awfully big out in the 8th. Kevin Jepson, relying just on a fastball, is able to get the job done, and the Twins pick up the win, and we can stop talking about the losing streak. Tom Hanneman.
Amen.
Tom Hanneman, an awfully big win for the Twins here tonight.
Indeed, a night of some phenomenal firsts at Target Field. The most important, the first win of the season for the Twins. Up next on Twins Live, we'll talk about Eduardo Nunez. This interesting night. We'll hear from Paul Molitor, and we'll look ahead to Game 2 tomorrow afternoon.